communicable disease and epidemiology. Also joining us today is Dr. Monifa McKnight, Superintendent for Montgomery County Public Schools. And on the line as well is Montgomery County Department of Transportation Director, Chris Conkling, to answer any questions regarding transportation issues. Reporters, all of you should have permission to report already. If you do not, please request it on the chat. And with that, I toss it to you, Mr. County Executive. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you everybody for joining us again. We're about to start a new school year next Monday, and that begins a very busy and exciting time for students, parents, teachers, and staff. And today, MCPS Superintendent Dr. McKnight is going to be joining us to update us on the back to school prep and some of the things that the MCPS has put in place for the new school year. This will be Dr. McKnight's full school year as the MCPS Superintendent. I look forward to working with her to make our school system the best it can be for our students and our educators. When I was a teacher, the week before school started was a busy time of preparation and anticipation to meet and work with new students. However, preparing a single classroom, which is what I had to do, is a whole lot easier than preparing an entire school system of over 160,000 students and multiple thousands of teachers and staff. I think we have 13,000 teachers alone, especially when dealing with the unprecedented challenges our schools have had to overcome during the pandemic. It kind of provides a setting for how we begin this new year, because this new year, fortunately, finds us, I think, in better shape. Over the summer, Dr. McKnight and her team have been working really hard to address the staffing shortages that have impacted every school system throughout our region, state, and country. And we know that's been of local concern and the topic of some discussion. They've also continued to address school safety, as well as how to address 2 years of learning loss that students incurred over the past 2 years. Learning loss is real. And one of the things in the budget we put together this year, which did have record funding, was providing extra funding to the schools to deal with learning loss. We realized we just can't say, go back to school, do what you were doing, and just carry on. There needs to be an effort, and there need to be resources that are available to address what happened to the kids over the last couple of years. MCPS has been very deliberative and innovative when it comes to addressing this issue, and includes focusing on grade level content while teaching the skills and concepts that you need to support new learning. And MCPS is using assessments to identify and address student needs through class instruction and targeted small group instruction. As far as dealing with COVID in our schools, new guidance announced by the CDC recently de-emphasized quarantines for students who are simply exposed to someone who tests positive for COVID-19. That change in guidance will likely help increase attendance rates. We will continue to recommend testing and masking for symptomatic and exposed students to reduce transmissions in school. And that's going to be especially true if we see another surge like we experienced last winter. You can see by the chart, these are the vaccinations by age group. And obviously we do pretty good at 1 dose and fully vaccinated. Getting more people fully vaccinated with the booster dose is really critical. We need those booster doses. They actually do make a difference for people's health outcomes. We are fortunate the county continues to be among the top counties in the nation when it comes to being vaccinated and boosted, but we still have a lot of work to do, especially getting our younger students their booster shots. And everyone needs to get a booster shot when recommended as immunity wanes over time. This Saturday is our annual back to school fair at the Wheaton Westfield Mall. And our HHS department will be there to give vaccinations. And I seriously encourage all MCPS families to attend this event. And I'm excited to visit a few schools on Monday to mark the first day of school and the opening of the new Harriet Tubman Elementary School in Gaithersburg. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. McKnight now from MCPS to talk to us about how they're approaching the start of the school year and to break down some of these changes. So, Dr. McKnight, it's yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, County Executive Elrich, for having me here and participating in your press conference today. I, too, sit here with much anticipation for Monday, August 29th, because that is the day that we're welcoming our students back for the new year. And it is one of the best days that we look forward to in the year, because we want to leverage the excitement that I hear our students have as they are walking around, ending their summer and ready to connect with their friends and teachers again in the school year, and for our parents, who are also very excited for their children to be able to come back in a year in which, we've learned so much over the past couple of years, a year in which I feel like we are stabilized in a different way than we have been before. So I am excited to be here today with you and to share some information. And I'll say, although we're celebrating upcoming of the first day of school, I also want to recognize off the bat that Montgomery County Public Schools is a part of a great community here in Montgomery County. We're a community of learners, all of our students coming together and do the work that they do in the classroom and building those partnerships and relationships around learning. We're also a community of dedicated staff members who show a strong level of commitment to their work. And I say that because I have a chance to see them day in and day out, taking their work seriously about all that they do to make sure everything is prepared for our students to have a great year. And then I also want to point out, we are a community of committed partners of service, all surrounded around us fulfilling the needs of our children in Montgomery County. This year, we have had community members come forward in so many different ways and saying, we want to be able to help. We understand there's a staffing shortage. What can we do to come in and help? I have a certification in this area. I'm a retired teacher. I am a community member who's looking for a way to help. What can I do? And I just really say that speaks to the strength of our community here in Montgomery County, and not that just the community mindset doesn't exist in other places, but there's something special to be said about how we always find a way to come together around the commitment of our children here. And I just say that because I am so proud as a superintendent to serve in a community who believes and acknowledges every single day that there's something that we all must do together to make sure we're serving the needs of our school. And I share those narratives with you because I think it just elevates our theme of opening school this year is all together now, all for our students. And I believe that it is the contributions of everyone that will allow us to be able to reach new heights and achieve the best and claim success, most importantly, when we do it together on behalf of our children. So that's what brings my excitement to this conversation today. As one of the largest school districts in the nation, and of course, the largest in the state, we are prepared to bring back over 160,000 students this year, which is no small task. And as you know, our enrollment numbers have gone up this year, and we're very proud of that. And I want to take this time to really express my sincere gratitude to the educators, school leaders, staff members, community partners who come together for us to focus on the areas that we have identified as our priority. Academic excellence, number one. Number two, well-being and family engagement. And third, professional and operational excellence in Montgomery County Public Schools. Those are the areas from our strategic plan. As superintendent, I say we address those areas by doing three things that show our commitment. One, continue to focus on rebuilding trust, which we've gotten a wonderful start to this year. Second, focusing on our social emotional well-being. And third, making sure that we are creating spaces to return to equitable teaching and learning so that every student can be successful. Yesterday, we gave our first briefing to the community in our board meeting in which we outlined all of the specific things that we're doing for this year. So I want to say to our community, if you did not have a chance to tune in, please go back and look at that presentation because it was one that was very in-depth about how we are planning for the school year. But today I am going to hit on just a few topics. I'll first say, starting out this year, we're very pleased to feature some different things about opening this year that we've reinstituted that we found to be measures of success and things that we're also doing to make sure we're preparing our teachers and the staff in our buildings to make sure they're prepared for our students. The first is we've instituted a full-time staff development teacher in every school because we do know that in order for a teacher to be successful in their craft, they have to continue to have the time, attention, and focus on how they can have the time to create and talk with one another and collaborate around how they're going to meet student needs. So we're excited for that. Secondly, we're also going to have a full-time reading specialist teacher in every elementary school. We know that we are looking at literacy and want to make up for the learning disruption that was caused by COVID-19. And so we are making sure we're putting the resources in our elementary schools to address that specifically. We also continue to look at critical staffing in support of our new schools and additional school spaces, namely Harriet R. Tubman Elementary School, which is going to be our new school this year. And finally, of course, expanding early childhood learning opportunities. I shared this number with you because it's one that I'm very proud of. I recently looked at some of our enrollment numbers, and we believe that early enrollment in pre-kindergarten is really essential to our students being prepared in kindergarten in MCPS. And so between July 15th and August, the mid-August numbers, we had an increase of about 1,500 students in our pre-K program. Very excited about that. And so we're going to continue to focus in and make sure that our resources are there and present so that our students and our early learners can be exposed to education early so that we don't have to worry later about closing gaps, but we're looking at how we address any possible gaps early on when a child is exposed to education very early on in their career. We've been having a lot of conversations about staffing this year. This year was a very different year. We've seen labor shortages across the nation, and so our school system was not immune to that issue. But I am proud to say that we are 99% staffed in our school system. Hiring and recruitment has been, again, a challenge, but I am proud that we were able to figure out exactly what we needed to do and how we were going to implement specific things to address those challenges within MCPS. So there's much we're doing, planning to do, and implementing each school year and classroom throughout the county. Readiness for school, readiness for graduation, and readiness to be college and career ready. And all of these are really important things so that our students are able to thrive in their future, regardless to whatever it is that they look to do. It's our job to help them be successful. So I just say our theme of All Together Now was not one that we just have to open up this year with, but it's one that we have to live by, that should guide our success for how we are going to support our students throughout the year. I'm going to touch on just a few key areas because they are key areas that continue to come up as I see questions in my email, questions at our board meetings, and I'll first start with COVID-19. So we're 2 years now into the pandemic. Actually, I'm going to say when you think about school, 2 years and 1 quarter, because it was the final quarter in 2020 in which our students' learning was disrupted as a result of COVID-19. And so we're in a much better position now than we were 2 years and a quarter before to provide our students with a sense of normalcy. And we've learned a lot of lessons from the pandemic, and those are lessons that we continue to focus in on to say, how do we keep our school spaces safe? We've offered school-based vaccination clinics throughout the entire summer. We know that's going to be our best preparedness method to make sure that we are battling COVID-19. We acknowledge that the physical and mental health and well-being of our students and staff is top priority. So we've put a number of things in place to support that. And then we're always going to be guided by state, local, and national guidelines. So I open up the school year saying, let's continue to implement health strategies that we've learned to be successful. If your child is ill, we recommend that they take a COVID test or stay at home when they're sick until we can understand the conditions of that. We also ask that with our students continue to get vaccinated. And we know that boosters are available, so we want to make sure we're paying attention to that. And then we've done some things on the system side, which is really increase our ventilation and indoor air quality enhancements, because we see those as things that will help us move forward to make sure that we're being proactive. In terms of masks are not mandatory in most situations. Masks are still optional. That, of course, could change based on guidelines and numbers. And so we're going to continue to communicate with our community if we feel like there are issues coming up and we need to address them in specific places. We sent out communication earlier this summer about monkeypox. We're keeping an eye on the spread and going to continue to consult and make informed decisions on that based on public health experts. Dr. Bridges is on this call. He's a great partner with MCPS, along with our medical officer, Dr. Kapunen. And I'm sure they are following, as they always do, local, state, and national statistic and guidelines. So that's where we are with our COVID preparation for this year. As I shared earlier in terms of staffing, we are 99% staffed. As we begin the school year, what I can say is that every single classroom is going to be staffed with a qualified instructor, and all schools are going to have adequate number of support staff ready to welcome our students. Our substitute teachers have been very supportive in making sure that they are getting skilled up, professionally developed, and ready to serve into any positions that still serve as a vacancy until we're able to fill our full-time vacant positions. In terms of bus drivers, we have 73 positions open totally. We have 41 bus drivers that are in the queue. So essentially, we're in the need of about 32 more. Very different place than we were last year. And again, I credit our staff who've become very creative in recruitment and other ways to make sure that we are expanding our MCPS family and filling these positions. So I close out with, I look forward to seeing our community members at the back to school fair on Saturday. I really see that as a kickoff to the year because that's when we have our students there getting resources, families getting resources, families getting vaccinated. Everything that we can provide in that space, we provide so that our families can get a good start to the school year. So I look forward to seeing many of you there on Saturday. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Lorna, if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. McKnight and Mr. County Executive. Members of the media, remember to use the chat to place your requests for questions. And now we're going to open the space. If anybody has questions for Dr. McKnight and or the County Executive regarding MCPS, this is your time, reporters. Any questions?
Sorry, Lorna, I have one.
Hi, Steve. Good afternoon. Steve Monell, go ahead.
Thanks. Ms. McKnight, just a quick question here. Has MCPS and MCEA reached an agreement about dual certified special education teachers? I know that's been in the works.
Yes, that has been in the works. And I will say that our teams were truly committed to continue to work through the weekend. And I do believe that today we will have some good news to share.
And is there any reason why MCPS announced incentives for that kind of dual certification before MCEA ratified the agreement that you're all working on or are working on to ratify?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question clearly. If you wouldn't mind repeating, please.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any reason why MCPS announced the incentive for those dual certified special education teachers before MCEA ratified the tentative agreement or in the process that you're going to announce later today.
So we've been looking at numbers and really paying attention to who our teachers are, who are dually certified, so that we would be able to see, what is this number of teachers who have this possibility to help us solve a problem in MCPS and are interested in doing something different. It's definitely easier for us to be able to hire in some of our more general fields of education than some of the specialized areas like special education. So we are looking at that. The two parties came together and thought that this was a creative opportunity for us to provide some choice for those who may be looking to try something different, but stay within the system, and who wanted to take advantage of expanding their horizons professionally. So we are going to see what comes of that. I also think as we try some of these creative measures like that, it also will be a great learning opportunity for us to see, is there something more that we can do in how we build out some of these pipelines in a more creative way to address some of these problems, such as this one, that have not just become a new issue this year, but have been issues that we in MCPS and other places have been struggling with for the past years.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Up next is Mike Murillo, WTOP. Good afternoon, Mike.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you so much for taking my question. I have a two-part question here. So one is for the county executive. We're watching the situation in DC with the buses coming in with migrant families from Arizona and Texas.
Mike, I'm sorry. Let's take questions regarding MCPS. Is this MCPS related?
Yeah, it will.
We open it up for Q&A afterwards.
Yeah, well, my question was going to be where there's a discussion about, opening up schools to some of these children who are involved with the buses that are coming in. So my question is, is Montgomery County going to get involved with this at all and offer open schools for some of these families and some of these kids?
Yes, Mike, thank you for that question. So we've had much experience in being able to welcome families who are coming in very unique circumstances coming into our school system. That's why this past year in our budget, we made some significant investments in our international office, because we know that, one, this is an area that represents a lot of diversity, a lot of families, tend to come to this area. And so we want to be able to be one of those places that support those families when they come in. The bottom line is these are children who are in need of an education, and we need to be prepared to provide them with that. So our international office and the investments that we've made there, the increase in staff and support is definitely there to address issues such as this. I'll take us back to last year when we had a number of families coming over to us in the winter and the spring, and it was nothing more rewarding than really hearing our families come in from Syria and other places to say, I so appreciate the support that I'm getting that's providing my child stability. While we had to leave a very difficult situation, here we are, and we're being provided with transportation, or we're being provided with counseling services that makes my child feel as though they're coming into a system, experiencing much trauma and fleeing a situation, but getting that stability within the school system. And so we're prepared to do the same and work with our county government partners to do those things in partnerships to make sure that we're providing wraparound services for families as well, so that it goes beyond what happens during the school day.
All right, well, thank you. And I guess one more question to you while I still have the floor. Talk about, the staffing shortages, and maybe give us a couple of the ways you guys actually overcame this, because you said 99% of positions are filled. That's a big difference from last year. What are some of the key, I guess, components you think that led to that?
Absolutely. The good thing about the work that we do, and especially when we're thinking about work that's going to impact a child every single day, is every day and every strategy that you try to solve a problem, you try to figure out what have you learned and what can you do better. What we've learned was we needed to shift our approach in so many different ways to take this issue to the community to help us solve it. And that meant some of our strategies of just advertising in different spaces. While we've expanded that over the years, and that has helped, we also recognized that we needed to go into the community and talk with our communities, explain to them what the problems are. Sometimes people want to help and they just don't know how, or they want to help and they recognize what gifts and talents they have, but they don't know how it fits best into the problem we're trying to solve. And so I feel like recruitment has gone beyond just filling out a paper, an application, and then hearing back from us, but it's been involving more of a conversation of, here's what we're trying to do. Let me learn more about you. What is it that you desire to do? If you look to come into MCPS and work and start a career here and stay, what do we need to share with you to help you see this as a destination place of employment? And then we learn from those conversations as well, so that we can continue to build on those things. For those who are retired and they're asking to help, we're having more conversations to let others understand the complexity of the problem and how they can help us solve that. And so going into the community, being present at the county fair, going into our different communities and just setting up a pop-up shop, going to shopping malls and talking with families have really made a big difference. And many of those lessons we learned from COVID-19, in which we had to take our services beyond our spaces. And that's what we've done. In addition to that, we're also doing things to get ahead of this issue proactively. We know we have a part, and we have some responsibility in making sure that we're preparing for the shortage that has existed over years. And we need to help solve that problem. So getting our students who are in the classroom right now interested in becoming educators, and those who are going directly into career paths, making them aware of what those career paths are in MCPS right now, is also a key lever for what we're going to do, what we're doing now, what we're going to continue to do to solve the problem, and engaging our higher education institutions in helping us to meet those certification needs, helping us to engage with students much earlier on so that they understand and build those relationships in the school system through internships and such, is what makes them feel a part of the culture, so that when they are graduating and ready to go into the field, it actually doesn't feel so new to them. And so it's been a myriad of different solutions that we've come up with that's helped us get to where we are right now. But the first, I will say, it is the strength of our community here in Montgomery County that has helped us solve this problem.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. Reporters, members of the media, any more questions for Dr. McKnight before she departs, because she needs to go to another meeting? Any more questions? Going once? Going twice? Guess not. Thank you so much, Dr. McKnight, for joining us this afternoon. And great luck for the beginning of the school year.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all around.
And I will see you early, but not too early on Monday.
I look forward to it, Mr. County Executive.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Now, Mr. County Executive, to you for the public health update.
So starting with COVID-19, as for our COVID rates this week, we're looking at COVID case rates, once again, that are just over 150 per 100,000 people. And we remain in the low community level for the second week in a row, which is good news. When we ended the past school year in June, our case rate was nearly double what it is today. I want to thank everybody for continuing to get tested and abiding by the CDC guidelines. If you do feel symptomatic of COVID, just to remind you, that's 5 days of isolation, at least if you test positive, followed by 5 more days of wearing a mask. That's the basic guidelines right now. As you can see from this chart, we're also seeing a slight decline in our hospitalization rates. And you have heard us week after week talk about the importance of being vaccinated and boosted for us to continue reducing our hospitalization and death rates. The unvaccinated are 3 to 4 times more likely to contract COVID and be hospitalized compared to people who are fully vaccinated. 3 to 4 times more likely if you get COVID to be hospitalized compared to those who are fully vaccinated. And boosted individuals are even more protected. The vaccine's been with us for 1.5 years now. It's been such a blur to remember when that line changed, but it's 1.5 years of having vaccines. And according to the CDC, 89.5% of our total population is fully vaccinated, which is the highest in the nation for a jurisdiction of our size and diversity. And it's been a pretty incredible accomplishment. We have a great team that's been working with this along with our community partners. And it's that combination, I think, that's really made us as successful as we are. But I also want to remind people that we need to continue to be vigilant and never give up on those who continue to refuse this protection. I remind people again, the Novavax vaccine, which is made in the traditional way, without any of the issues that were raised by other vaccines, is now available. And we encourage people, if that was your hesitation, how the other vaccines were made, you don't need to have this hesitation about this vaccine. You should come out and get vaccinated now. And I hope, those of you who are writing or talking about this would emphasize that for people, because we all know that there's a limited number of human beings in the county who are actually watching a press conference, but there are a lot more people who read your articles and listen to your news broadcasts, and letting people know broadly that there's a vaccine available that doesn't press on those issues would be really helpful. It can make a difference in people's lives. So whatever you can do to get that message out would be greatly appreciated. Our booster rates are still below 60%. We've been saying that for a long time, of our fully vaccinated population. And it's very frustrating, probably even more frustrating than the 10% of our residents who remain unvaccinated. The 60%, you've been vaccinated. You know that this stuff works. You've seen that, you were able to stay safe through this. So remember, the protection of the vaccine wanes. There will be a new vaccine this fall, it looks like, probably coming up in September is my best guess. That will be a combination of protection against the vaccine that the current virus is good for, the current vaccine is good for, which is the virus we all started with. But it also now contains protection against Omicron. And we know that the new variants are popping off of Omicron for now. So this would be really helpful. I know I plan on getting the vaccine when that's available myself. It's easy to do. It's free at our health centers. And usually there's no out-of-pocket cost for insured individuals going to pharmacies and other clinics. Plus, it's critical to continuing our recovery. There are a few jurisdictions in the region and state that continue focusing and messaging on this as much as we do every single week. But we do it for a reason. And, it was only in January that our hospitals were overwhelmed. So we know where this goes if we don't do our part, and if we don't make sure that you know what we need you to do. So we're going to keep talking about it as long as we have to deal with it. Our latest variant, which is BA.5, continues to be the dominant variant, but now we have a new subvariant, BA.4.6, that could reverse recent trends of fewer infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. BA.4.6 is the 7th major subvariant of Omicron since it first appeared last November. And with every new subvariant, we see the virus continue to evolve. I know this is a little bit like playing whack-a-mole, but this is what we got to do. It is the right thing to do. I do hope that the FDA approves the new booster shots that have been created, and we can get it out to the public as soon as possible. It was good news this week that Pfizer and BioNTech announced that they've asked the FDA to authorize an updated version of their COVID-19 vaccine. I think I saw the Moderna's asked for the same thing. These new boosters could be a game changer, and they're going to be critical in ensuring that we don't see our healthcare system overwhelmed for the third winter in a row. On the monkeypox front, numbers are still headed the other way when it comes to monkeypox or MPX. Cases are up week to week, with more than 400 people now being reported in Maryland and around 16,000 cases nationwide. This Monday, we held the first virtual town hall on MPX to give the public more information about the county's response and to answer questions from the community. And I wanted to thank Montgomery County Councilmember Evan Glass for spearheading that effort and our entire DHHS staff for all the work it took putting together a successful and informative session. We weren't able to get through all the questions that were submitted, but we're working on answering and responding to each one. There are also plans for more virtual town halls in the future. Montgomery County is following CDC guidelines adjusted earlier this month to adopt a new vaccination method called intradermal. It is proven safe and effective and will allow more people to benefit from our vaccine supply. Close to 3 times the amount of people seeking a vaccine will be able to get one now with the supply that we already have. More than 2,800 people have pre-registered for a vaccination, and we're in the process of training nurses and setting up clinics. So please continue to check montgomerycountymd.gov/MPX for the most current information. One more disease, polio. In just the last few days, it was revealed that polio has returned to the United States after health experts declared it eradicated in 1979. Its 43-year absence was attributed to a global vaccination campaign. And in July, a New York City man was infected and paralyzed by the virus. Sewage samples taken following that diagnosis found that the virus had probably been spreading there for months. The key here is vaccines. The incurable disease is preventable, but only by vaccination. The recent anti-vaccination trend concerns health experts precisely because of stories like these, and coupled with pockets of America that already are resistant to vaccines, and health experts believe that sporadic outbreaks of polio are possible. This is quite a change from what generations of Americans have seen and had to worry about. Polio was declared dead in the Western Hemisphere in 1994, only to reemerge now, about, 28 years later. Very soon, Montgomery County will also have the technology to monitor sewer water for traces of virus like COVID-19 and polio, and we hope to be able to enact an early warning system to alert the public that a silent danger is already present in our community that can be addressed before too many people are impacted. I want to say that, I grew up in the 50s, and I started elementary school in 1954, so you can probably figure out about how old I am. But I was in that first group of kids who got vaccinated, and I remember, sitting in the school, I think it was the auditorium, and like lines of kids and doctors lined up in the white coats and giving vaccines to all the kids. And I only learned later, because when you're 5 years old, you don't have much of a context other than somebody tells you you're getting a shot today. But I learned later what a scourge polio had actually been in the community. Aside from widespread transmission, people were keeping their kids inside. They weren't going out to play. There was so much fear of it that actually impacted how people interacted with each other. And you think what we just went through or been going through with COVID and how it feels to, to find our activities restricted. Well, with polio, many people restricted their activities because of the fear of it and the severity of its impact on a person. So I don't think any of us want to go back there again. These vaccines are safe. They've been proven safe for a very long time. And I hope that if you've got a child, particularly who's not had the shot, or if you're an adult who did not get vaccinated, and that hopefully is only a small portion of our population, I hope you go out, make sure your vaccinations are current, that you are protected, because this is another disease that none of us are going to want to see our residents get. Before I turn this over to Sean, Earl, and Ms. Townsend for their updates, there are a couple of other items I want to address. The Streeteries program. This week, we announced updates to our Streeteries. Our Streeteries have provided a practical solution to a pandemic-related problem. They served a much-needed gathering space for restaurant customers during the height of the pandemic and provided a creative solution to the community that provided safety and social distancing. It was critical for the survival of restaurants when we were worried about indoor dining and the fact that it was one of the greatest risks that we had. The outdoor dining gave us a real option to let the businesses stay in business, keep doing what they were doing, let us do what we had been doing, and do it in a safer way. Now the situation's changed. We worked with community in each area to decide how these spaces are going to continue to operate. And in some cases, there are going to be small changes. The Streeteries show new possibilities. I would like to see us work to see how we can continue some form of these activities as we move beyond just trying to accommodate activities within the constraints of the pandemic. So I'm actually hoping that we get more creative. I've seen programs in other cities with parklets that are both permanent and portable. And I think there's some things we can do to keep this opportunity alive in different forms. The county Streeteries include Newell Street in Silver Spring, Price Avenue in Wheaton and Norfolk, and Woodmont Avenues in Silver Spring. Newell Street in Silver Spring will reopen to cars after Labor Day. However, it will close to vehicular traffic for scheduled public events throughout the year. And we will continue to schedule public events throughout the year. That's a park activity primarily, but I know there's an interest in doing that. Woodmont Avenue Streetery in Bethesda will also be temporarily suspended and partially reopened to traffic after Labor Day. And that's because we have to accommodate the construction of the long planned, but only partially finished Woodmont Avenue cycle track. So that will interrupt the eatery there for a little while. The other two Streeteries on Price Avenue in Wheaton and Norfolk Avenue in Bethesda are going to remain open. And our Department of Transportation Director, Chris Conklin, is on our briefing today in case anyone has any questions about this process and decisions regarding this area. I will, I don't know if I'll prevent any questions, but I do want to say Newell Street's gotten a lot of attention. There are no restaurants there, so it doesn't have the direct impact the other Streeteries had on the restaurant population, but it was directly or is directly adjacent to a residential building. And residents had Streetery activities and noise and all the associated stuff right outside the door, outside their windows. They couldn't open the windows. They complained about not being open windows because of noise at night. And it was, more of an intrusion there than it was in other places. Park and Planning has bought a very large lot, just a few hundred feet up the street from there. And that's planned to be redeveloped into a park. And that should give the area a nice, safe park, decent size with the opportunity to do lots of creative things. So we hope this is, a temporary change, but that we bring back all these activities in a more appropriate setting. That wasn't something we ran into in the other street areas that were in the heart of the restaurant and commercial areas in these districts. We have issues there too we're trying to address. A lot of the shop owners, now that people are coming back, have raised issues about parking for the shops in that area. But we think in general, we're going to be able to maintain this program. And along Newell Street, people should be patient, but they will get something back. I'm sure parking planning will be more than happy to resurrect this when they begin fixing the property or altering the property to accommodate the park they want to build. So with that, I will I guess I'll close by mentioning the President of the United States is coming to Richard Montgomery High School tomorrow. Time to get there is between 4 and 8 p.m. And that will bring up the topic of traffic. We expect a lot of traffic tomorrow. President Biden will be visiting Rockville for an event being hosted by the Maryland Democratic Party at Richard Montgomery High School. Approximately 4,000 people are expected to attend. So we anticipate significant traffic around Richard Montgomery and throughout Rockville, starting at or before 4 p.m. as people begin to arrive. It's an honor to have the president visit us, and I look forward to attending myself. Dr. Stoddard has been working with MCPD and event organizers regarding the logistics, and he'll give you the latest update on this when his turn comes in the next segment of this today. So thank you all for being here, and look forward to your questions. And I'm now going to turn this over to Dr. Bridgers, Sean, Earl, and Kim for their updates.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I have no update and will participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. O'Donnell so he can run through the COVID-19 report, and then turn it over to Ms. Townsend for our MPX update.
Thank you, Dr. Bridgers. When you mentioned 4,000 individuals at Richard Montgomery High School, I got a flashback to our COVID clinics last year. We just a few updates with our with MPX. As the county executive mentioned, almost all of the cases now are in the BA5 or the BA4.6 variant. Again, continuing to see these new variants, it shift from variant to variant. The good news is that our transmission rates by PCR test have significantly come down. I think this morning's dashboard now shows we're just under 160 cases per 100,000, with our hospital rates also dropping, which is very important as well. Again, we're both the percentage of hospital beds and the number of new COVID cases per week. Just moving along to update, we are still seeing, unfortunately, mortality related to COVID. And this is just a reminder that some segments of our population are particularly vulnerable to respiratory illnesses, whether it's influenza or in this case, COVID. We continue to unfortunately lose residents to this disease. Part of the CDC's updated guidance is reminding individuals that even though they do recommend that an individual who's isolating because of a positive result or because of a illness that may return after 5 days as their symptoms improve and continue to wear a mask, they still recommend that those individuals try to avoid being around those other individuals who are high risk for serious illness. And so again, the mortality data here really underscores why it's important to maybe postpone visiting at-risk relatives or friends while you're still recovering from COVID. It's still easy to transmit that even when you follow precautions. We know people sometimes take masks off when they're around close contacts. And again, please try not to infect those who are at the greatest risk. Just a brief update from the state records, continuing to show some increases as we vaccinate our under 5 population. We do have a rate that's about double the state average, but it's still a much slower vaccination effort, as we've seen with each progressive age group. Right now, Montgomery County has about 1 in 5 of our children in this age range has received 1 dose. we're continuing to see these again come up, and we encourage families to come out. Our weekend clinics that the county hosts at MCPS locations. And again, a great thank you to our MCPS partners for allowing us to come into their facilities on the weekends and get these vaccines to our populations who need them. We are now giving not only that under 5 infant and toddler vaccine, but we're also giving Pfizer for the 5 to 11 and the 12 and up. So a whole family can come out and get boosters or their first and second doses. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Townsend to give us an update on where we are with our MPX response.
Thank you, Sean. According to our recent CDC map update, there are a total of 15,909 cases of MPX reported in the United States. And as of today, they are reporting that we have 431 cases within our state of Maryland, which is an increase of 125 cases since our count last week. A little bit about our online pre-registration survey. It has been live for 2 or 3 weeks now, and we have received about 2,832 pre-registration responses to date. This number changes daily, as you can imagine. In the meantime, Department of Health and Human Services is increasing vaccine administration capacity. We're doing so by providing an increased number of clinics over the next week or so. In terms of our vaccine supply, all 450 first doses from phase 1 and phase 2 allocations have been administered. Beginning today, the remaining doses will now be provided as intradermal injections for those returning for second doses, in addition to new first doses. Today is our launch of adopting that guidance from the federal government. And although we have been asked by the state to make this change no later than August 29th, we are not waiting. The purpose for that is so that we can go ahead and use the doses that we have to provide the maximum amount of first doses to our community. And so we have created 750 new appointments for next week, and we'll continue to expand vaccinations as more vaccine arrives. We have requested additional doses of JYNNEOS vaccine last week, and once that is received, we plan to have appointments on the week after next, depending upon how many vaccine doses we receive. And finally, other updates, which was mentioned earlier, we did have our first town hall discussion on Monday evening, and we are planning additional town hall discussions as we go forward. So that concludes the MPX update for this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Donnell and Ms. Townsend. Dr. Stoddard, do you have some remarks?
Yes, I do. I want to provide some additional details about the support that the county, the city of Rockville, MCPS are providing to the planned event tomorrow in Rockville. First off, I do want to thank all those partners, the city and communities, public facilities, the police department, DOT, and MCPS for the collaborative effort to ensure that there is a safe event with minimal impact to the community in the Rockville core area. As the county executive alluded to, the event is scheduled from 4 to 8. Please, attendees plan to arrive right around 4 p.m. Don't arrive earlier, you'll be waiting. And obviously it's going to take a little bit of time to get through the security system into the building. So please do plan accordingly for that. I do believe the president is expected to arrive right around 6 o'clock. So you'll have about 2 hours from the 4 p.m. timeline to get inside and have a space there. Fleet Street will be closed between Monroe and Mount Vernon starting at 2 p.m. tomorrow. This will obviously impact traffic in the Rockville area, but that's in order for the area to be secured for the president's motorcade to arrive, as well as just ensure that the number of people walking in will have a safe entryway to the space. I would say we're being extremely encouraging of people to take public transportation to who plan to attend this event. As a reminder, this is you have to have registered or received an invite to this event. There won't be any walk up, so you have to have pre-registered for the event. Do take public transportation if at all possible. Parking will be extremely limited, and frankly, you'll have to walk a potentially fair bit of distance from the available parking to the site. So if you plan to attend, public transportation is going to be the most convenient pathway for most. If you do drive or must drive, parking will be available at Montgomery College on Manakee at the MCPS building at 850 Hungerford Drive. The council office building garage will be available. It has limited spaces, only about 600, I believe. The jury parking lot right across the street from the COB parking garage, which has about 400, so less than 1,000 spaces within the immediate area. And do not park on the residential streets. There will be signs marking off residential spots. Do not take those up for the residents who live there. Final thing I will note is tomorrow's weather is expected to be 90 degrees right around 4 o'clock. So don't try and aim to arrive right around 4 o'clock. Don't arrive early. You will not be, you'll be stopped right at the corner of Fleet and Monroe, and you'll have to wait until they're ready to receive people into the building. So please make sure that you are there in a timely fashion, but not too early. That's all I have today. And I do have to hop off for another call. So if there are any questions on the event, if we could take those first, please.
Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. So members of the media, this is the time that we open up the session for Q&A, public health update questions and general questions. I do not see any requests on the chat. Please use the chat.
Let the sweet mineral melt in your mouth to rebuild your gums and teeth while you sleep.
Okay, and what was that? Reporters, any questions?
Are you taking general questions now or just for?
Yes, Mike. General questions.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to go back to the county executive because I know the superintendent
Like hitting it as it comes out.
The migrant situation.
Yeah.
With the families coming in, just your reaction to that, how the county's helping, and your thoughts on, you know, obviously the schools being open for some of the children if need be.
But when we think about being open, I'm pretty sure we're talking about them actually attending. And, you know, the policy has always been that if you're in Montgomery County and we don't know whether they're going to be here for a short period of time or a longer period of time, we've always allowed people to attend school here. I think it's the right of anybody living here to have their kids in school. So I think that's more or less automatic. And I think that's what you're referring to in terms of opening up schools. So I would not be surprised if we do that. I would expect it. The bigger question, you know, we continue to help provide, you know, what is, you know, pretty typically temporary support until people move on to other accommodations. And, you know, most of them, you know, have continued to leave the area. As far as I know, that was the last I had heard analysis of this, that people were moving more or less, more people were moving on to their final destinations. Again, we've never had a policy to say you can't stay here. So I don't anticipate anybody getting, you know, told to leave. So, you know, we'll deal with and manage the situation as best we can. And hopefully the governor in Texas and Arizona, whatever, will stop this. And hopefully the federal government will provide resources adequate for all jurisdictions to handle the influx of newcomers. I, you know, recognize it's not free for any of us, whether we're, you know, in Texas or we're in Montgomery County, to accommodate this. And assistance is always welcome, and it's certainly needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Up next, Kevin Lewis, ABC 7. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Good afternoon. County Executive, it appears the finish line is only feet or meters away with the race for County Executive. What are your thoughts? Is it time to celebrate, or it's not over till it's over?
I think at 4 o'clock this afternoon, or whatever minutes after 4, they make an announcement. I guess it's time to celebrate. We never saw any update, from the numbers that were released on Monday. We're assuming that nothing changed, but I don't know that. And so we'll wait. I mean, we're well past a month now. So waiting has been kind of normal. I guess we'll say I've sort of detached myself in a way, because you can't just constantly, hope the result is different or hope it's over. It gets really frustrating. So I guess my philosophy has been it's going to happen when it happens, and we'll know what we know, and then we move on from there. I do feel pretty confident that I'll pull this off. But, we'll discuss partying and celebrating once somebody tells us we have something to party and celebrate for.
Now, the Board of Elections hasn't gotten a firm sense of how much this costs. And obviously, David Blair was well within his right to request the recount. But it's likely to be tens of thousands, if not six-figure number, to do the recount. With that cost on the table, still well worth it, in your opinion?
Democracy is well worth it. I mean, if this is a close race, and to have simply declared that if you don't have the money to pay for a recount, oh, well, you have to live with the results, I think would undermine people's faith in the process. And so sometimes you have to pay to give people confidence that whatever the result is what the result really is. And so I'm comfortable with that, and I will say, if the shoe had been on the other foot, and if, I had to pay as a publicly financed candidate who received his match and can't get any more match and is limited to $250 donations, if the person hadn't already given me up to $250, it would have been really hard for a person to do that. So I think the first shot at it, if a person wants to take it, they should be able to take it. I have no hard feelings about that.
All right, my last question for you. If the Board of Elections does certify the recount in your favor, is it Hank Deedles tonight? Is it any sort of celebration?
We're working on that. We've got a lot of people who have pent up demand, because we didn't have the normal election night party where you'd be celebrating and cheering as the votes come in and say it's done. So there are a lot of people who would like to have that experience. So we're figuring out where we do this. I will make sure where we do it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Members of the media, remember to use the chat to request your time for questions. I do not see any more requests on the chat. Anybody else has any other questions? Going once? Going twice? I guess we're done for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe. We'll see you again next week.
Take care, you all.
Thanks all.